filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in New York. He's listing debts of up to $500 million, assets of up to just $10 million. This comes just one day after a federal judge ruled Giuliani has to immediately pay that $148 million that he owes to two former Georgia election workers. NBC's Ken Delanian is following this for us. Also with me, former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst Carol Lamb. All right, Ken, I just got my hands on this. It's pretty thick. I haven't gone through all of it. Walk us through this bankruptcy filing and what it means.
So the main debt that he lists in this filing, Chris, is the $148 million he owes to Rudy Freeman and Shay Moss, and that appears to have been the tipping point here. He also owes more than $1 million to some lawyers who are suing him, and he lists some other theoretical notional debts that could occur in lawsuits where he is a defendant. For example, Hunter Biden is suing him for defamation, Smartmatic, the voting company, suing him. So he's listing potential debts, and that goes up to $500 million. But so here's the thing about this $148 million judgment. It is likely not dischargeable in bankruptcy because it resulted from willful and malicious acts, which are not subject to bankruptcy protection. So whatever happens with this reorganization and the bankruptcy, this judgment will stay with him for the rest of his life. Now, he can appeal it, but the judge, in imposing the judgment yesterday, made clear that in order to appeal, he's going to have to put up a bond essentially equivalent to the amount, to the $148 million, which clearly he does not have. So an appeal seems rather remote at this point, and that means that this judgment will stay with him. Now, will Rudy Freeman and Shay Moss get their money? That remains in question. What kind of assets does Rudy Giuliani have? We know that he has a lovely apartment on the Upper East Side of New York, and we know that because it's listed for sale right now. You can see it on the Sotheby's website. It's listed for $6.1 million. So to the extent that that is for sale and there isn't a debt on it, if he makes some money from that, that essentially could go to some of the people, some of the creditors here. But it's a long process that's just beginning, and it's a huge downfall for somebody who was once called America's mayor and who made a lot of money as a private lawyer, but whose financial fortune started to dwindle once he began working for Donald Trump, as we learned yesterday when a series of documents were released in connection with a criminal investigation, Chris.
Rudy Giuliani facing the steep cost of his campaign of lies and disinformation in service of Donald Trump. If you thought Mr. Giuliani's lowest point came outside Four Seasons Total Landscaping just north of the Tacony-Palmyra Bridge, or perhaps that infamous hair dye drip press conference, oof, I forgot how bad that was. Well, anyway, if you thought those were the low points, think again. Today, the former New York City mayor filed for bankruptcy in federal court. This is less than a week after a jury ordered him to pay nearly $150 million to two former Georgia election workers for defamation. This is the latest embarrassing chapter in the spectacular fall from grace for Time Magazine's Person of the Year 2001. And it's a move that Giuliani's lawyer said should surprise no one. That settlement to Rudy Freeman and Shay Moss is not his only financial headache, after all. According to the bankruptcy filing, Giuliani has nearly $1 million in unpaid taxes. He owes his lawyers and accountants hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he still faces a number of upcoming defamation cases, ones that have not even yet gone to trial. Let's get straight to CNN's Caitlin Poland. So, Caitlin, now that Giuliani has filed for bankruptcy, will any of these people get paid?
That is going to be remaining to be seen, because in this sort of situation, he's filing for Chapter 11. So he's going to be able to try and restructure his debts and have his assets doled out. There are liens already filed on some of his properties. The IRS had filed for a lien previously. But one of the things that is so important to look at when you're thinking about this is he's filing for bankruptcy. He's laying out all of these debts that he has, the almost $2 million for lawyers and consultants in the past, almost $1 million in taxes. That all pales in comparison to what he now owes Rudy Freeman and Shay Moss for the defamation, for what happened last week at trial, that jury verdict. And that is the sort of thing he can go to the bankruptcy court and ask the judge, please discharge this debt, but he's already agreed in that case as part of the final judgment that it was malicious. And that is the sort of debt you can't get rid of through bankruptcy. And so he's going to be indebted to them very likely after some court proceedings for the rest of his life.
And we mentioned these other defamation lawsuits that are still pending against him. What are they? And could that mean he's going to actually owe even more money?
It very well could. And Jake, you won't be surprised. There are 3 of them related to other statements he was making after the 2020 election when he was working on behalf of Donald Trump. So he clearly had that defamation case that he lost with Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, the 2 Georgia election workers. But there's also someone who worked for one of the voting machine companies that's been suing him. There are the 2 voting machine companies that have major lawsuits that are progressing steadily in court. Dominion and Smartmatic, those are ongoing, could result in additional major findings against Giuliani if they go the same way as the Freeman and Moss case. And then on top of that, there are other lawsuits. Some of them are just your grab bag lawsuits. A grocery store employee suing him for an altercation that they had where the grocery store employee was arrested, a former employee suing him for harassment, and then Hunter Biden, you mentioned. That is a lawsuit that is in a very early stage. We have no idea if Giuliani's going to end up owing Hunter Biden money, but it is a lawsuit out there, and so he does have to disclose it in his bankruptcy now in case it gets to the point where he owes more money later.
We don't know if he's going to end up paying Hunter Biden money. We know that he tells a lot of lies and defames a lot of people, and we've seen courts come to that conclusion. Caitlin Polans, thanks so much. Let's bring in Ken Friedman. He served as a spokesman for Rudy Giuliani's 1993 mayoral campaign. Also with us is Jared Elias, a bankruptcy professor at Harvard Law School. Jared, help me understand this because I am not an expert on bankruptcy, and I'm guessing most of our viewers are not. Put this into context. How big of a deal is it for somebody, especially somebody of Rudy Giuliani's stature, who was once worth a lot of money as the founding partner of Bracewell, Giuliani, et cetera, to file bankruptcy? How big a deal is that?
Well, it's unusual. It's not unheard of, but it's unusual for someone who is as rich as he once was to end up needing bankruptcy protection, especially to need bankruptcy protection for this type of litigation.
And Ken, as somebody who used to work for and admire Rudy Giuliani, what goes through your mind as you watch this man for whom you used to work now having to file bankruptcy because he can't stop lying?
Well, my first thought is his lawyer is correct. It doesn't come as a surprise. After the judge ruled that he has to begin paying Moss and Freeman immediately, no coincidence that he filed for bankruptcy the next day. Caitlin is right. The damages, and the law bankruptcy professor certainly can speak to this, but damage awards for intentional misconduct are not entitled to a bankruptcy protection, or reduced or discharged. He owes Uncle Sam first. $1 million or more dollars, the federal government and the state government, for unpaid taxes. After that, the secured creditors will be compensated from the remaining assets that's determined that Rudy has. He says he has between $1 and $10 million in assets.
And Jared, part of the final judgment in the 2020 election defamation case against Giuliani included his acknowledgement that he defamed Ruby Moss and Shay Freeman, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, that he defamed them with malice. That obviously makes it harder for him to escape that debt. What happens? Does the government just come and start taking money from his bank account after the $1 million that he owes in taxes has already been settled? I mean, he obviously, we just saw pictures of him. He's wearing expensive suits, expensive ties. He's riding in a limo. I mean, this is not a man, outside wearing a barrel.
No, in the bankruptcy petition, he says he has between $1 and $10 million worth of assets. So he's not indigent. And as you mentioned, there are other signs that he, in fact, might have resources. So what's going to happen here is that the judge will hold a hearing to confirm that this debt can't be discharged, which means that you can't ask the bankruptcy judge to release you from the amount of money that he owes for the election defamation claims, as well as some of the others. And if that's true, which it most likely is, then at some point he will leave bankruptcy, and he'll have to start paying some amount of money, if he has any, to all of the people who are suing him. But he can't use the bankruptcy process to get out of this debt.
And
That's the key.
Ken, do you think Giuliani would have gone down this path of election lies, crazy conspiracy theories, seemingly mindless decisions to keep repeating these lies even after he's been found guilty and liable, if it weren't for Donald Trump? And what is this hold that Donald Trump has over him, do you think?
Probably not, to answer your question. And, they're attached to the hip now.
Except Trump won't pay his bills.
Trump is worried.
Trump won't pay his legal bills,
Trump
right?
will pay, right. But Trump he held a fundraiser, didn't raise much money, as you know, and because he's worried that Rudy will flip on him. All right. But he's not going to pay a $148 million judgment.
Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy filing includes lists of creditors he owes over $150 million. And as Daily Beast reporter Roger Sollenberger points out, these lists are like a roadmap to the downfall of the man once known as America's mayor. One of the people on the list, for instance, is attorney Robert Costello's firm. Now, Costello represented Giuliani in a whole bunch of things, from the federal investigation into his business dealings in Ukraine, to the FBI raid on his home and office, to the January 6th committee's investigation into the insurrection, to disciplinary proceedings that could lead to his disbarment for helping Trump try to steal the election. And the criminal case against Giuliani in Georgia, where he is now indicted on 13 felony charges. Now, according to the filing, Costello's firm, Davidoff, Hutcher, and Citron, is claiming they are owed over $1.3 million, an amount that Giuliani disputes. But that amount pales in comparison to the $146 million a judge ordered Giuliani to pay former Georgia election workers Rudy Freeman and Shay Moss for defamation. Roger Sollenberger is a senior political reporter for the Daily Beast. He's been reporting on Giuliani for years, and he's been pouring through this filing all day. Roger, I've been following your reporting, so just first sort of take us through what you gleaned from this bankruptcy filing in federal court today.
Yeah, I mean, the most fascinating thing to me, like you're saying, is this roadmap. Like, very rarely do you get to see a look at someone's personal downfall laid out so neatly before you, right? The list of creditors is really the roadmap, or just the story, a path through the last 4 years or so of Rudy Giuliani's precipitous public decline, which we have seen. And because he's been such a character and has been through so many events in that time, you tend to forget, just how many things have happened. And this filing really takes you through that. There's an accounting firm from his 2019 divorce proceedings that is suing him, just sued him in November, I think, for $10,000. Wow. They have seen the writing on the wall. There's a lawsuit from a former assistant that is suing him for pretty revolting claims of sexual harassment. I don't know if we remember those. There are 2 law firms that are suing him for fees that are owed him. One of them is, or at least was, representing him in Georgia for free, but they are also claiming back fees. There's Costello's firm claiming back fees. There's the IRS. There's the New York State Department of Taxation that is claiming from him. It's really looking at it as a portrait of a man, it's not so flattering.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that the Times noted, of course, too, just in terms of this, this sort of epic downfall, just this almost Greek mythic sort of trajectory of this individual who, to my mind, has, for much of his career, displayed precisely the same attributes consistently. But I should note, that he really lived a lavish life. That he made millions of dollars a year in his private law practice after he left public office. He had this consulting firm that was enormously lucrative after 9/11. His divorce from his third wife exposed the couple's once lavish lifestyle, a $230,000 a month spending habit, 6 houses, 11 country club memberships. Now, He says he's broke. He's filed for bankruptcy. He owes all these people money. I guess the question is, given the judge saying she doesn't trust he's not hiding assets, like, what do we know about how much this is an actual full display of his actual finances, if there's some secret money squirreled away somewhere or there isn't?
I mean, we don't really quite know. We can take him at his word. Some assets that I don't think have been listed are 4 World Series rings that he got when he was mayor that are diamond encrusted and valued at, I think, about $200,000 back in 2007. They've got his name on them. I don't know if those lawyers are aware if they've existed or if those things might be in Hawks somewhere, but, those are assets. So, he does have money, and his wife, his ex-wife, when she was suing him in this divorce proceeding, was alleging that he was concealing his money, and that he was doing so, by the way, through his relationship with Trump. And it was through that 2018-2019 mess in Ukraine where Rudy really needed money. He was spending a lot of it, allegedly to keep it from his wife. The filing also tells this story of spite of him, right? It reveals sort of his character in that way too. But again, working for Trump for free, by the way, to get him impeached the first time, working for him again 2020, and then trying to charge him not getting paid, getting him impeached a second time, going hat in hand to Donald Trump this past year. I'm not really sure if he has squirreled away money somewhere. Very difficult to make that speculation, right? But, I think one tell is that, he has not been paying his bills. I don't think that somebody would, and his lawyer, like you were pointing out, Robert Costello, a longtime friend of Rudy Giuliani, right? And that law firm is suing him for $1.4 million. So is he, actually really stiffing his friend on this money to keep something somewhere away from other creditors that he really hates and really doesn't want to have his money? Who's to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Occam's razor here is he's broke. We should just note, and you note this in the piece, that the actual damage he did to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss's lives is remarkable and acute and lasting, and it's why the jury found in their favor, and one hopes that they do see some actual restitution, whatever comes out of this process. It remains to be seen whether that will happen, but that remains my hope. Roger Sollenberger, who's done great reporting on this throughout. Thank you very much.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, when is it not, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah, I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so damn good on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We're facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark. General, General! Need this immediately. Evacuate right now. Hold on. National security advisory. Stay down. Check it out. The mission is outrageous. The amateurs are suicide mission.